This is Luke 21:35. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. I'd like to start off by saying, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashi, Call Baroyim La Yahawah, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Rachaf Kodash. Double homage to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect that's scattered abroad, the Akim and the Akwath that's listening in. Yahweh is our Lord willing that the lesson is edifying. So, Brother Shawab, I'm back at you with another lesson. We're going into the title. All right, Rice Krispy treat update. The mark is about to creep up on the world. All right, Shalom Malak Yahweh Bashem Yahweh. So, as I read Luke 21:35, all right, it says, "For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth." All right, and what's this snare? All right, this snare is going into, all right, this MOTB, which is the mark of the beast, all right, concerning the RFID chip. Okay, this is what the mark of the beast is, all right, and we are 100% sure, confident through faith of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh that is what the MOTB is. All right, because a lot of people will say that they don't know nobody knows what the MOTB would be. All right, but we have the secrets that the Lord has uncovered unto us. Okay, the Lord said, "Surely I will do nothing but reveal my secrets unto the servants, the prophets." All right, so the Lord has gave us the eyesight to be able to understand these things and know exactly what the MOTB is. All right, because how is the Lord going to be able to spare us from the hour of temptation if we wouldn't know? You see, so the Lord has to give us, all right, the insight of what it will be in order for us to be saved. You see, ain't nothing but Satan right now with these damn machines. Lord willing, you can hear me. All right, so we know, all right, according to faith, according to the according to faith and according to wisdom that the Lord has given us, all right, that Satan is full of devices, all right, and we're not ignorant to his devices, okay? Not only that, these devils are to the point where they're pretty much telling you right in your face exactly what the MOTB is, you see? See, because it says he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MERK in their right hand or in their forehead, right? And that you that you cannot buy or sell unless you have this MOTB, all right? And what's being spoken of on a daily basis, all right, concerning, all right, what's the thing that's being spoken of on a daily basis of this new NWO, this new world order, all right? This technology that they want to bring, that they want to merge man, all right, with machine, all right, going into transhumanism, all right? So it can only let you know that the MOTB has to be a physical implementation, all right, of an actual device, all right, that merges with man to machine, all right, to make you basically almost a cyborg, you see. And because we're in the fourth industrial revolution, all right, which is the Internet of Things, all right, everything around us is being digitalized, all right, down to them taking away your money, your physical money, and want to give you a digital currency. That's the reason why they have been, you know, prepping you with things like Bitcoin, you know, and by that, other different ways of different angles of them trying to get at you with digital money. All right, that already lets you know, all right, that that's what the future is. Okay, everything around us is computers, man. So it would only make sense, all right, that they use some type of device, all right, to be able to control your money fully. All right, and there's no going around it anymore. There's no more hiding it. All right, it's being revealed onto you on a daily basis of what this NWO consists of. All right, and they consist of biometrics. They consist of devices, all right, being attached to your body, all right, to be able to monitor your every move. Okay, so we know, all right, through the spirit, all right, that is the RFID. And when you look at the RFID, all right, the ingredients during the RFID, some of the ingredients, is semiconductors, pharmaceutical, all right, radio frequencies. You see, all these things go hand in hand, all right, of them trying to basically collect data off of you, pharmaceutical, because it's going to be tied to your medical records. All right, not only that, they're able to, through this device, all right, they're able to use certain type of what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they want to put things like, let's just say, cyanide in there to be able to off you if you don't comply. So that goes back into being medical, going into some type of medical warfare, right? Radio frequency, so they're able to track your every single move, connecting to Wi-Fi to be able to transfer data like a Bluetooth. You see, and that's where the basically the transferring of money comes in handy. You see, so you're able to buy and sell if you have the MOTB, but if you don't, all right, well, we can't give you no digital money. We can't give you a product that you want to buy because there's no way of you buying it. You see, so this is what they're prepping you with and gradually putting into your lifestyles every single day. They've showed you with credit cards. They showed you with paying through your phone. Now you're coming to the time where these people, these stores are now, no longer taking cash, but you have to somehow show either a palm scan, all right, or you, buying with a chip on your card. You see, even credit cards nowadays are not even working if you ain't got no damn chip on it. Okay, because there's still certain cards that have no chip that you gotta swipe, all right, for you to use it. And I realized that a lot of the devices they have to scan your cards are now not coming with a way for you to swipe it. All right, eventually they'll still be able to do it because they'll do some, they'll take the numbers and punch it into the system, all right, manually. But that just goes to show that you can no longer swipe a card because a card has a chip on it. So it has to be scanned, you see? And eventually they want to take away your phones, make you the phone. They want to take away your card so you don't have to rob and it's all convenient to you. You don't have to be robbed for it. It's all convenient to you, right? So eventually the chip that's on the card has to go into you, you see, to be able to have access to certain things to verify, all right, that you are legit to buy and sell, that you're legit part of this system, all right? And when you go into the word mark, it goes into what? Charagma, all right, which means to have a badge of servitude, all right, showing that you're an anti-Hamashiach, all right, that you are against the Lord's will and ways, right? But you're down with the system that they have to offer you, the beast system, the image, okay? And then that word goes into karax, which means a stake, right? What they use to implant the device into your body with, right? And when you look at needles, right, especially the one that they use to inject this RFID into your body, it's like a stake, right? A stake, you drive it into the floor, right? Into the dirt. All right. Well, is a stake a certain stake being used to drive it into your skin? Okay. And then when you go into from karax, it goes into grapho, all right, which means to, things written down, not to be forgotten. Basically going into recording your data, right? Also, being a pinpoint your location like a GPS, you see? So this is how we know, all right, through faith and through the word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, that this is a physical implementation being put into your body, the MOTB. All right, it's not a spiritual thing. All right, it's not a religion. Okay, it's not, stupid nonsense like it's white women. All right, or you got people saying that the MOTB is sin. Some bugged out thing. Well, I mean, it is sin because you're not supposed to cut into your flesh. All right, but you have these different dogma as philosophies, that people use to try to go around exactly of what it really is because they don't want to face the reality that in this society, all right, this is what's being pushed, all right, and it's pretty much, you know, they're pretty much going around the bush with it because they want it to fit their narrative of when that time comes of why they can be able to take it, man. A lot of these people don't care. They don't want to hear that they're going to starve. They don't want to hear that they're going to thirst out here. You know, these people want to take this damn device to continue on in life, you see, because these people don't have faith. All right. And I'm talking about our people, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. But every day you look on the news, every time you read it on an article, every time you look on social media, we're just one step closer to that MOTB, right? So let me play this video real quick. All right, this is based on Mexico. All right, Mexico is no longer using cash. All right. And, you know, there's a lot of countries that's been doing that little by little. Okay. So, oh shit. Check this out.
I need to.
Oh, no, this isn't it. Oh, say. Ain't nothing but shaitan, bro. I done saved that video and it's now, it doesn't want to come out. They ain't even save it, bro. That's wild. Sorry, I know where it's at. Give me 1 second. Let me grab it. So it says breaking news. It says Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. That's a crazy ass name. It says announced at an 89th banking convention in Cancun that cash payments at gas station and toll booths will now officially be phased out. Digital payments are set to become mandatory for fuel and tolls by the end of 2026. You realize what this means, 2030 agenda coming, whether you like it or not, it says, right? And that's exactly what's going to happen, man. It says our goal this year is to make digital payments mandatory. See, and this is, and when you see these things, man, you got to be fearing, right? Because that means that we're next. See, this is already going on around the world. Digital payments, you know, people putting their digital systems into play, into their economies, right? But when you see places like Mexico, that's right underneath America, right? The next door neighbor, right? You see places like Canada, those are next door neighbors right next to America. That can only mean that we're next. You see, you even have this being pushed down in South America also. You know, they don't speak about it all over the news. Why? Because it's a snare. It's a trap. It's supposed to come upon you without you realizing, man. And because people's algorithms are so caught up with what's going on with the bullshit in the world, right? The nonsense, okay? Things that don't matter, right? That's why in the same precept I was just bringing out, Luke 21, right? Before the snare, it says what? Let me grab that real quick. 34, it says, and take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting, right? And drunkenness and cares of this life, so that that day come upon you unawares, you see? And that's what these people are caught up in, the cares of this life, the things that don't matter, you see? Caught up in drunkenness, you know? Meaning you're not sober, you're not alert, you're not active to what's going on, you're asleep to it, you see? So because they had the bread and circuses, the entertainment, all right, to basically, it's basically a witchcraft and a sorcery to keep you asleep, you see? That's why it says right after that, for as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Yeah, it's a trap. So in a lot of places, they're not even telling you that these things are happening. Okay, as the scriptures say, right? in second Ezra the 16th chapter, right? That victual shall be so good cheap upon earth that they will think themselves to be in good case, right? But even then, evils is growing upon the earth, famine is growing upon the earth. You see, things like this is happening behind people's, behind closed doors. While you're watching all the latest TV shows or TV productions, right, that keep you asleep, or you watching the latest sports channel, whatever, right? All these things are being set in place by the global elites, man. The people that rule the world, starting with Esau Edom, starting with the Illuminati, okay? The bloodlines that rule the world. They have been setting this for ages now, you see? And they've been doing it in increments, all right? But we're no longer in a time where it's coming soon. No, it's here. It's already been here, okay? It's just a matter of time before it's made mandatory. Right now, what you have is people that willingly, without being forced, go out there and they take these things, man, because they think it's a cool thing. They love their technology, They're in tune with technology. They wouldn't mind being, turned into a cyborg. You see, this shit is here. Elon Musk been planning, neural links in people's brains for quite some time. And when something I've been realizing, right, with the news is you'll always hear Elon Musk's Neuralink, the first patient to ever get a Neuralink implanted in his brain, can now walk or can now think or can now do this. It's always the first person. Nigga, this shit been happening for a while now, okay? You've had people in Sweden that got Neuralinks and microchips in their hands for years now. You got people that been getting Neuralinks on the low, all right, according to their diagnosis, okay, from these doctors, to be able to, be taken out of whatever misery it is that they're going through. Oh, this person was paraplegic, he couldn't do this, and now he could because of this chip. All right, this person couldn't think before, but now we're gonna give him a chip and he can do everything that he wants to. This person was a vegetable. Okay, all of a sudden we put a chip in him and now he could do everything being a vegetable, but he could still, do whatever he wants through this technology. They've been doing this shit for years now. Right? They've been doing tests on monkeys and rats and mice, all right? Using it on them first to see if it's able to be used on a human, and they already know that it could be used on a human, okay? Again, it's just a matter of time before they're able to make it mandatory. They have to find a way to make it mandatory. They have to find a way to collapse the society to usher in their new world order. Because that's part of the new world order. That's part of the new world. Okay? So every time I'm seeing this, it's always, the first man to put a Neuralink. Nah, that's like the 2000th man that's got that. I'm just being funny right now, saying anything with the numbers. All right? But stop believing that it's just the first man, okay, that has a Neuralink, or the first man to get an RFID. He can now open up his door in his car, or open up his door in his job, okay? This shit's already been out, okay? That first man thing is to make people being like, wow, you see? Make people be in awe, to be like, man, I wish I could do that, you see? So while all these things are happening around the world, right, and people thinking themselves to be in good case, okay, evils are happening. Evils are growing. A snare is being set before our people. And that's why it's going to catch you unaware. That's why the Lord say, be not caught up in the cares of this life. Because when you're too caught up in something, you can never see, all right, the punch coming, you see? But us as watchmen, we're constantly watching. So we know this devil's move. We know his every intent, all right, of how he's laying this snare. That's why the snare is not going to catch us off guard. That's why the Lord said, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. You see? So the Lord going to keep us from that because we're constantly in prophecy watching what's going on. You see? So it's not going to fool us. We're not ignorant to Satan's devices, man. But the rest of the world is. The rest of the world is loving the devices that Esau is bringing out every damn 2 months. You know? Every year something new. Every year is something newer and technology, all right, that, you know, is a new, what's the word I'm looking for? A new success and technology, you know, with humanity. Okay, so let's go back to that video, right? This is what they're saying. All right, my bad. Let me finish reading what I was reading. It said, our goal this year is to make digital payments mandatory for fuels and tolls through the models we are developing together with the banks. This is intended to strengthen accessible digital payment methods and drive the country's digitalization forward in many other areas as well. All right. So if that country's doing it, eventually the whole world has to do it, and the rest of these countries has to get with the program too. You see, because this is a global thing that's going to be pushed upon us. Right. The Lord said that, right, in Habakkuk, that he heapeth all nations together. You see. So in order for him to heap all people, all nations together, all right, that means that has to be a global thing. Okay. And where did they get that idea from? When you read Genesis, the 11th chapter, you see how everything was in one speech, you know, in the beginning. All right. They get those type of ideas from the scriptures, man. So they figured that everything could go back to being one. They want a what? One world government. All right. They want a one world a one world God, right? They want a one world, you know, everything just being one together. Okay. One world society, one government. So in order to have one government, you can't have separate countries and separate governments, right? They all have to join together, you see? And that's what this NWO is about, merging everything together into one, all right? Under what? One satanic ass ritual that these devils have been planning for years now. Okay, so let's hear what she says. It's in Spanish.
Este año, a través de los esquemas que trabajemos con la banca, hagamos obligatorio el pago de las gasolinas y de las casetas a través de manera digital. Esto va a permitir potenciar.
Yeah, so she's basically saying this year we want to push as best as we can this technology, all right, that is going to potentially be made mandatory, man. Okay, this is and there's no potentially that it's going to be made mandatory. It's going to be mandatory. That's their goal, you see. And again, Mexico is right next to us. That's our neighbor. So that means it can only come to Babylon the Great. Okay, and this is what's been going on around the world while you're so caught up with World War III. You know, you're caught up with, you know, all these civil wars that are going on around the world. Okay, that's why it's going to become a snare, because in the process of civil war and World War III, people are just hit and sleep to that. Okay, but while you watching just what's going on in war, all right, you're not realizing that the scriptures say that there will be wars and rumors of wars, which we're past the rumors, right? But now the wars is all over the place. But it says the end is not yet. Why is the end not yet? Because this has to be made mandatory for the end to truly come. With World War III, all right, Armageddon, all right, is brought upon us. You see, once this is made mandatory around the world, then pretty soon once this is made mandatory around the world, it's a matter of time before the missiles fly. You see. So what you're seeing is the buildup of World War III, of Armageddon, all right, to have its final collapse, to have the grand finale, You see, but in order for you to get to the grand finale, you have to go through the MOTB being made mandatory. Okay, because that's what's gonna bring all of this to an end. Because the Lord said, in the fullness of His sufficiency, right, when He is about to fill up His belly, that's when the Lord is going to intervene. That's when the Lord is going to rain these missiles upon America. Okay, when He is about to fill up His belly. So right now is the buildup to fill up His belly. Okay, He's working on the height of His sufficiency. Okay, the height of His sufficiency is the pride of His technology. You know, the pride of His accomplishment that He's trying to accomplish across the entire globe. You see, and and as the Lord said in Habakkuk 2 and 3, the vision is yet for an appointed time. You see. So these things have to come to pass first in order for it to get there, right? The Lord said He does not stir or move them until the said measure be fulfilled. So we're measuring the time diligently, just like the Lord does things by measure, right? We're measuring the time diligently within itself, all right, to know exactly what time we're in. Now, no man knows the time, right, that the Lord is going to come, all right? But He still gave us signs. That's the beauty of it. He gave us signs to be prepared for what's to come. You see, to keep our eyes open like dinner plates, watching at all times. You see, but these people worrying about the weather today. Shit, it's nice outside. Let me get myself out there and, you know, ride around. Let me go do something nice. Let me plan my next vacation. Here it is, shit is shutting down around the world, right? You can't even, it's not even safe to travel anywhere anymore. All right. But people still trying to plan their next trip. Right. People still trying to find a way to be hit to the system to be able to still accomplish these things as vacationing, you know, move around. They're talking about a global shutdown globally. All right. Because of lack of oil, lack of fertilizer. All right. And these people don't take heed to those things. Oh, we'll be all right. We're America. We're the greatest country. We have our own supplies. We have our own things. Yeah, we have our own things, our own supplies, but those things run out after a while, you see? So what you going to do when they run out? For everything that has a beginning, it has an end, right? So that means if you have something, it has to run out and you have to get more at one point. But our necessities, right, of global trade with oil, global trade with fertilizer is running out. Their countries right now are literally on the last straw of their savings of oil, okay, on their last barrels of reserve. You see, yeah, certain parts of the country is still getting what they need, all right, because they're in cahoots with the ones that are controlling, right? Which Iran is the one controlling things right now, right? But what happens for the rest of the world? What happens to Babylon the Great that's in bad standing with the globe completely? Its own allies don't want to deal with it. Its own allies are leaving it, all right? Because they see that their economy is going to fall if they continue to deal with America. You know, Iran is making the squeeze tighter for them, where they're like, man, you know what? You keep on dealing with America. Well, we're not going to let you pass through. You know, we're not going to supply you with your oil, your fertilizer, you see? So therefore, your economy is going to collapse. And they're not going to allow their economy to collapse over America's bullshit, you see? But America itself, the government here in America, they could care less about their own people. They literally have started this war on purpose to let their economy collapse, you see, because they want to usher in their system, their new system, you see. And in the process of that new system, a lot of people got to be, you know, unalived. A lot of people, it's depopulation, man. A lot of people got to be depopulated for them to gain the total control of everybody in America, okay? And then America also playing that role. They know that they were the powerhouse at one point, all right, through the petrodollar. But you see now the petrodollar is not even worth anything anymore. You see, because none of these nations internationally are dealing with America anymore. Okay, so when America's done, the world collapses, man. Why? Because America's the cash cow. America's the go-to for every country. America is the country that makes the rest of these countries around the world rich, right? Through the abundance of their delicacies, as the scriptures say, all right, through the trade system that they have, right? If all these other countries didn't have America to trade with, right, who they really gonna be able to trade with, man? Yeah, they could trade amongst the countries that's around them, all right? But it wouldn't be as costly. It wouldn't make them as much money because they're right around each other. See, everything here, all right, was making them the money because they have to travel across seas to the Western Hemisphere to bring certain products, you see? And because they bring it to these certain, they bring it in across seas, all right, that's what makes it more costly. That's what makes it, the prices go up, okay? In these other countries around in the Eastern Hemisphere, right? A lot of these countries, they have, even though Iran is the main one that has oil, right? That's transporting the oil, they can find oil, all right, in their own countries. Every country could pretty much find some type of oil if they really wanted to dig, you see? But the thing is, if you dig everywhere, then what shit? What the hell we living on Earth for? We just living on Earth to dig all day, you see? So they can only do it in certain places where it's the richest. You see, where the flow becomes, the easiest to gain it. Okay. So again, everything is happening right in front of us, right? And these people still don't realize that the snare is about to come up upon us, right? Again, this thing in Mexico, all right, is heavy that's being said, all right? Because through the spirit, I believe America's next. America's definitely going to be next. This is the year of technology, Lord willing. This is the year of their NWO. 250-year mark comes in July 4th, right? So we gotta stay on our toes, man. But let's grab this Revelations, and I pretty much ended off, right? This is Revelations 13 and 16, right? And it reads, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and marked, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the BEAST or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. All right, and 666 goes into what? All right, Chi Psi stigma. All right, and stigma goes into an actual mark cut into the flesh. All right, showing you that it's a physical thing. All right, showing you that slaves in the ancient time, all right, bore a brand. All right, wore a brand on their, they wore brands to show that they were owned by a particular owner. Okay. Well, that's the brand that they're going to bring in these last days. It's going to be a digital brand, okay? You're not going to be marking those slaves with numbers, okay? They're going to put a chip in you that has a number, all right, to brand you, to show that you're owned by the Rothschilds, that you're owned by the Bilderberg or the Rockefellers, okay? That you belong to a certain slave owner, okay? This is modern day slavery. You don't need chains and shackles no more. They're going to give you a digital Messiah. Scriptures speak about how they were going to put a yoke of iron upon our necks, right? Well, this digital technology is the yoke of iron of today, you see, and it's coming in the way of technology. Okay. And that's why they're prepping you more and more for technology, telling you that this is convenient for you. This is going to be, the greatest convenience of humanity to make things easier, okay? When in all reality, it's basically made for your doom, you see? Because anybody in their right mind, all right, that has a actual a piece of brain in their head, will say this don't seem right. Yeah, the technology's cool, the computers is cool, right? But it's only supposed to go so far. And now when you want to make a man a computer, if you can hack a computer, they can hack you. Why would you want to be hacked? You see, why would you want to be altered? Why would you want your thoughts to be controlled? All right. That's lack of freedom with your own thoughts, man. The Lord gave us our thoughts, right? For us to, you know, think freely. Okay. But see, they want to take those thoughts from you. All right. And know exactly what you're thinking at all times. Know how many breaths you're doing, how many breaths you're taking a day. Okay. Only the Lord could tell you how many breaths you take a day, right? How many hairs is on your head. So this is them trying to play the role of God, right? And that's why it tells you in 2 Thessalonians, right, that let me just grab that real quick. 2 and 4, it says, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God. So he's opposed, all right, contrary to the Heavenly Father, and he exalts himself. And you're not supposed to exalt yourself, man, because we ain't nothing but vapors of a vapor passing through, right? The Lord counts us as earth and ashes, man. So we're nobodies, okay? At the end of the day. So why is earth and ashes proud? Why are they exalting themselves? When you exalt yourself, it says that you fall. That's why pride go before destruction and the haughty spirit before a fall. That's why Babylon, America is about to fall, because the pride that they have, you see, the haughty spirit they have on them right now. Okay. So it says, exalted himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. You see, so he wants to be able to tap into you by sitting in the temple. We are considered the temple of the Lord. Our bodies are considered as a temple to the Lord. All right. So how is he going to sit in the temple of the Lord with his device subdermally inside your body? You see, showing that he is God, that he has power. Okay. Showing himself that trying to show himself that he's above the Heavenly Father, man. Saying that the Lord made a mistake on how he created us, but I'm going to create you in my image now. You see, I'm going to create you in my image. All right. For you to walk upon the earth in my ways, because my ways is right. That's how he looks at it. That's straight bugged out. That's straight blasphemy towards the Lord, man. So it says, above all that is called God or that is worshipped, you see? So the Lord is the only one to be worshipped. But you got Esau, Edom, these elites that have brought in your minds that the creature is to be served over the creator, right? As it tells you in Romans, right? Romans 1 and it's like it 24. It says, 25. It says, who changed the truth of God into a lie, right? And worshiped and served the creature more than the creator. You see? So these people, right? As a matter of fact, let's take it from 23. It says, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like unto corruptible man, to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Yeah, so you know, you had all these idols that were being used, these statues, right? They turned, you know, the incorruptible God into images, statues, okay? But that's old news now. Statues been around for a long time, so now they need a new God, a new form of worship. And how they doing that? By the digital technology, man, through their miracles, as the scriptures say, right? Which is these technologies, right? And it says, wherefore Yahweh also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. And that's eventually what's going to happen. You're going to end up dishonoring your body by giving up your body to this system, to the image of their system, right? For you to just gain a pleasure of sin for a moment when this place is going to be destroyed anyway. You see? So people are giving up their bodies. Why would you give up your body, your freedom, right? To put an implementation into your body and let someone control you, control your mind, right? It says, who changed the truth of Yahweh into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the creator. Okay? And that's what Esau has trained your mind to do, to worship man, worship the ways of man, the images of man, all right? Worship technology, worship their pseudoscience over the creator's intelligence, over the things that the Lord created, over the Lord himself. You see? And these devils don't believe in the Lord. They believe in technology and science, okay? And science is basically witchcraft and sorceries, man. It's all lies. It all deceives you, you see? And that's why when you have no understanding of the Lord's will, the knowledge of the Lord, you can easily be manipulated. All right? And that's what's being done. You're being programmed to get with the program. You're being manipulated, all right, into their image. And it's either you roll with the punches or you're going to be taken out of society, right? To the point where they're even saying you're going to be unalive. You're useless. You're a useless soul, you see? But we have faith, okay? We could care less what this devil has to offer because all things come of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All things come from the Lord, man. So the Lord is in control of all things. The Lord is even controlling this devil's thoughts to push his society, to push his image and his system, because the Lord has them in what? A track for himself, right? As the Lord said in Romans 9 and 17, right? It says, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, which the modern day Pharaoh will be, all right, these elites, okay, your president today, all right, because we are spiritually Sodom and Egypt. It says, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. You see? So the Lord has put this devil in power just to show how he could take something that's so scum of the earth, put it in power, but also to declare his name of how he gonna bring it down. You see? How he gonna bring down his system, right? So, you know, the Lord got him in a snare as much as he wants to put the world into a snare. He got him for a snare. That's why the Lord said, let their devices, all right, let them be taken in their devices, right? This is that they have imagined, right? This is Psalms. Let's grab this, Psalms 21, right? And 21 and 21 and 11, it says, for they intended evil against thee, they imagined a mischievous device, which they are not able to perform. You see, they're not able to perform, right? Tells you that in Job, all right, Job 5 and 12. This is Job 5 and 12, and it reads, he disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. You see? So they're not going to be able to prosper in that device, right? This is let them be taken in their devices, KJV. This is Psalms 10 and 2, right?
Let them be taken.
I couldn't get that out. I knew I'll go to this 1,000 times, and it was a brain fart just now, right? This is Psalms 10 and 2. The wicked in his pride does persecute the poor. Let them be taken into the devices that they have imagined. You see? So it's going to return upon his own head. You see? He has a certain thing that he's trying to push, but it's going to backfire on him at the end of the day. Okay? And that's what we're waiting for, this devil to make it mandatory so we could see the backfire on him, man. So we can see how the Lord's going to perform his ways upon him, how he's going to return it upon his own head, right? That's why it's going to be a beautiful day to watch the fall of our enemy, right? Let's end it with this. This is Ecclesiasticus 25:1. And it reads, 25:7. There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that has joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. You see? Yeah, that's gonna be that's counted with joy with us, man, to see the fall of our enemy, to be a partaker of seeing this system collapse, all right, through our Heavenly Father and his Son. You see? That's what we're waiting for the Lord to be established with righteousness on earth, a new heaven and a new earth, not a new world order, but a new heaven and a new earth is what we seek for, man, because this devil has puffed himself up with pride to the point where if we stay here any longer, as the scriptures tell you in Matthew 24, right, that no flesh will be saved. Shit, we'll all become cyborgs. If we're here any longer than what we have to be, all right, we will all turn into cyborgs and we'd be done for here. All right. You will see this place walking around with straight machinery all day long. Half man, half machines. You see? Yeah, and it look cool because you be watching these stupid ass movies, man. All right. But not knowing that these movies that were being pushed out will predict the programming of what the future is to be like, of what they want, you know, our future to look like. Okay. So, you know, we're about to see the fall, all right, of this system, all right. It's going to be brought in for a temporary moment, all right, just for a moment, because prophecy has to play out. But that same system that's going to be put out for a temporary moment is going to be the same system that the Lord is going to collapse, all right, and then basically collapse the rest of these kingdoms to establish a true kingdom, one that is profitable, man, because the earth is mourning because the wicked beareth rule. But when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, you see? So we're about to rejoice in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai for setting us up, right, with the with one that is profitable, man, which is Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, man, we got to be on our toes, man. This thing is about to be brought out. Okay, they're making it mandatory in Mexico now. All right, and people will be like, well, that's just the tourist spot. Well, the tourist spot is the most popular place in Mexico. That's where all their money comes from. All these poor countries, all their money comes from where people go to vacation. You see, where people go to spend money. That's what keeps their countries alive with money. You see, so if they attack the tourist spots, well, then the rest of the country that's poor is that much easier to gain control of, man. They don't got nothing, you see? So just because it's the tourist places, right, doesn't mean that the rest of the country is not going to be hit with the mandatory, you know, payments of digital currency, man. Eventually it'll be the rest of the country. So I'm going to leave it there through the spirit, Lord willing, that you were edified. So with that being said, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Kol Haloim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rocha, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad, the Akim and the Aquat that was listening in. Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing, that the lesson was edifying. The next one, Shalom, keep fighting the good fight of faith. Enduring as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai. You sisters continue to learn the silence, watch the true men of the Lord, and continue to keep throwing them prayers up, all right, praying without ceasing, that we get the hell up out of this damn hellhole we're in, man. Babylon the Great, that Babylon the Great be destroyed, all right, real soon, all right? And we definitely know that home is right around the corner, you know? The Lord about to come back and destroy this place, man, and redeem his elect, all right? So with that being said, Shalom.